Hello, it's a new day to reach for God's best and the greatness of life. I'm FC Farwell. I'm a minister that shares keys of the kingdom to launch you in your God given destiny. What does your destiny look like? Where are you going? Where is your life headed? Are you advancing? Are you standing still? Or are you backstepping or whatever, backsliding? That one gets me. The only place backsliding is used in the Bible is in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, backsliding is never used. But do people have unrenewed minds? Do they have a mind that is not filled with the life of God? Yes, this happens. People live life and they have lives that are not filled with the life of God. So let me pull up my screen here and see if it'll give me any information. Yay. Oh, kind of blank. Okay. So we'll come back to that in a minute. What is it the mind of God like? And what is it to have like the mind of God in you, God living in you? It says in the Old Testament in Proverbs that there are things that God doesn't like. There are things that God doesn't like. And some of those things we find them in Proverbs, and just some of them, obviously, but it kind of hits some, yeah, that's kind of weird. Not, yeah. Anyway, Proverbs, here it is. So, he doesn't like, so he says, these are 6 things the Lord hates. 7 are an abomination to him. I don't know. I can't see the dang thing. So it's there. Maybe chapter 6. These 6 things the Lord hates. 7 are an abomination to him. Oh, that's plenty enough. Let's hear those. Haughty eyes. What is it to have haughty eyes? Haughty, however you say it, is an arrogantly superior attitude, disdainful. Nobody's worth anything, and you're somehow more superior than them. God is the creator of heavens and earth, and that's not his attitude to people, to his children. He just isn't arrogantly superior. He actually reaches out to serve and lift us. And who cannot, who isn't there that could use a lift? Oh, you can call LYFT and get a lift, right? But God isn't like that. You can call an Uber and get a lift, I guess. But, well, you won't get a lift, you'll get an Uber. But his attitude is not, there's no arrogance in God. And he just doesn't disdain people. He values them through love. So, haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to do evil or run to do evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. In the Garden of Eden, before Adam and Eve were cast out, before they partook of that tree of good and knowledge or whatever, not whatever, the tree of knowledge of good and that whole tree thing. Before they did that, there was none of this in their heart and life. None of it. And absolutely none in God's heart. These kind of attitudes and hearts, the only one place they were is in Satan, the devil. That's the only place they were. But once man disobeyed God and, listened to the devil, these things that were in him became part of man, because the one you worship and the one you look to and the one you respond to is the one you become like. Let's see if my feed came up. Hey, look, the feed's up now. I can see. And John, yoo-hoo. All right, so I can see something here anyway. So we don't need to have attitudes like the world has. We need to have the attitudes and heart that God has. And the one you respond to is the one. All right, got that fixed. But I want to look. There's another verse that we're probably very commonly familiar with. And it'll be Ephesians 5, and then we'll finish up. Just a nice little, short little thing here. Ephesians 5:1 says, be imitators of God. Wait a minute. Imitate God? Me? You and I? Yes. What would our lives be like? How refreshed would our lives be and in others if we imitate God. Do you think God condemns himself? Do you think God puts himself down? And is God putting others down? Look, even when Paul blew it, the Acts 20:21 thing, in that area, and Peter messed up so many times, so what did he say? Jesus say to Peter, he said something like, Satan has desired to sift you, like wheat, whatever. He just wants you to be chaff. He doesn't want any good in there. But I've prayed and you'll be delivered. Something like that. The idea is that God's heart is always that we will rise up, we will go further, and we will accomplish much. Do you know you'll never accomplish anything great in a stress and strain attitude? Just nothing good comes out of when our attitude is bad. And our attitude is so directed by our heart, our thoughts, our attitudes about God, about ourselves, and in others. If God can be so forgiving, and he is, and loving to others, that he says, forgive others as God for Christ's sake forgave you, then we can have that same loving attitude toward others. I find even in believers, and I'm a believer, so I fit in this category, right? One with the Christ filled within this new life, that I get attitudes at times. God doesn't need your attitude. He doesn't need my attitude. He needs his heart, being an imitator of him, one who is a follower, because a follower imitates. And that's how we say this, I think maybe it was Bill Johnson or somebody, you become like what you worship. You become like what you look at. What do you look at in the day? Are you looking at the issues and people and government and politics and religion? Or are you looking to God in his heart to get free, to be free? Because you've been made free, but because we've been made free doesn't mean we live free in here, But we are free. We have been free. And a good morning. Yes, Jeannie, I see you out there too. We are free because, and Jonathan, Beverly, and all you amazing people over there in the scope, we are free because Christ made us free. But that doesn't mean we live free, because we can be trapped in our mind. This is the renewed mind, all those things. But be an imitator, a follower of God. How do I follow God? Walk in love, walk in light, walk in truth, walk in the liberty that's in Christ. And when you blow it, you miss the mark, you've not pressed in and toward the prize of the mark of high calling in Christ. The moment you recognize it, not a day or two later, that means you're just going to go through more troubled seas. But the moment you realize it, just say, Father, forgive me. I'm sorry. Let's get on with your plan, because your plan is the one that works. Mine is the one that's failing. We wonder why there's so much failure in the world. And because minds, attitudes, and hearts are wrong. They that are greedy of gain are going to fall into many troubles and sorrows, right? They're people. We're people that fall into many traps and snares and all because they pursue money. Look, God owns it all. Because the other day we talked about it's his good pleasure to give you the kingdom, that all the resources God owns. That means as you walk and live for him, this is the no stress life, the no anxiety life, because we're casting all our cares upon him, for he cares for us. To be anxious for nothing. Don't worry even about a thing, because God's going to do the worrying for you. In other words, he's already said, cast that care, cast that worry, but in everything by prayer, come and speak to me on the matter. And when you do come and speak to me, when you pray, God says, give it to me. I will handle it. And in that whole thing about the peace of God guarding our minds, protecting our minds, I tell you, the attacks of the world look like they're on the outside, and they are. But you know where they're aimed at? They're at your mind to steal your thoughts, to defeat your life. So let's be imitators of God as his beloved children. Let's be followers of him. Let's copy him and walk in love. This is Ephesians 5:1. as Christ loved us and gave himself up as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. So we could read on and see more about the mind, the heart, the attitude of God, and how we're to live. And it doesn't mean we get it all right. It doesn't mean we're on track all the time. That's not the idea. The idea is that we know who to look to. We know to where to put our trust, and we will find the peace, the rest, the joy, the life, and the love we so desire in God. And we don't need to be sarcastic jerks. We don't need to have attitudes toward people. Our attitude needs to be attitude of our Father, so that we are at rest. I like that. Don't even, that would have been Wuest, the Wuest expanded translation of the New Testament. Be anxious for nothing. Don't worry even about a thing. Don't worry about a thing, because I've put my trust in a place that I know God has a way. Adam and Eve never before the fall had a worry of fear, doubts, even we could say concerns, because all their concerns, their cares were cast on God. Have you given your life to God? Then have you given, and do you keep giving your heart to God, your mind, your thoughts, so that he can guard them, he can protect you, and then you can think good things. I'm going to say one more thing that just coming to mind here, is that you get pain in your thinker when you have hurtful, defeating, whatever thoughts. Your own thoughts defeat you. God doesn't defeat you. He is for you. Who can be against you, right? If God be for you, who can be against you? Therefore, you get pain in your thinker because you think defeated thoughts. Why are you thinking defeated thoughts? Think victorious thoughts of Christ, more than conquer thoughts. Thoughts of being lifted up. Thoughts of his supply, his care. And you know what? You'll find life starts flowing because your heart, your mindset, the way you live will be an imitator of God, and we aren't going to have haughty eyes. I so like that definition, that arrogantly superior and disdainful. God is not like that with you or I. Let's not be like that with one another. Let's get rid of the sarcasm. Let's get rid of the baloney. Let's hone in on this love of God, this truth that you and I are created to be exceptionally great. The virtue of God, a superior excellence, not ours. But let's live the superior excellence of our God, and let's bring the life, light, and freedom to this world that it so needs to fill it up.